how do you run the classes and all that. At the end of the session, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask him. And then after that, towards the end, I will take over and close it up by giving some admin stuff and all that, okay? So if everyone is good, I'll hand over to Aditya and he can take over.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Hello, everyone. Glad you could make it to, it's a late night session, but hopefully this is informative and helpful. So two ways we are going to communicate. You all are looking at me. Number one, if you want to say anything, just, probably wait till I come to a point where I ask you whether you have anything to say, so that, we complete some part of it and then you can put forward your questions. You can use your voice, or you can type on the chat. I'm monitoring the chat as well. So either one, works for me. And the other ways, at the end, obviously we'll dedicate some time to all your questions. So if you have any questions, then we can take them up then. So hopefully we can, keep it quite simple for, everybody to understand. But, as I understand, there are certain, because of going online to virtual learning, there are certain things to take care of in terms of security, in terms of etiquette, in terms of the way things are being done. And I think more than the tool, knowing what to use when is more important, because you'll sit down on the tool, spend a day, you'll learn it, but what you should use when, what is the purpose of each of them. I think that's more important to understand. Okay, so let's get started off. And what my main agenda will be today is, number one is what the platform is about. I'll be explaining stuff on the platform itself. What are the different functions when you're a host, and what are the different functions a participant sees when from a participant side, because it's important to understand both the sides. Third thing is, how do you follow some of the guidelines and advisories put to you from your organization and incorporate that into the Zoom settings? And fourth one is, we'll be looking at how to create meetings, how to create recurring meetings, and so on, so that you don't have to keep doing the same thing again and again. And we'll take questions. Along the way, what I'm going to do is, I am going to make one of you the host of the meeting, and I will ask, or I'll probably take a couple of you, voluntarily, to become the host, and then do certain things so that we have an exhibition of you guys having understood some of the things and how to use it, right? Cool. So all of you have heard about the platform. It's the big in thing now. It's being used for a lot of video conferencing all around. But one of the main thing to note is that, because it's a service which works online, which has both audio, video, files, and everything else, it's a platform which can also be compromised. And it's a platform which has was prone to some intrusions earlier in the year. It happened a few times, and there's no doubt that it might happen again, given the scale at which it's being used. What do you need to get started? First thing you need is a Zoom account. And I'm sure that all of you have created a Zoom account today or earlier, using which we are going to actually create and do all of this stuff. And you have used your Zoom account to log in as well into the meeting. So that's the first thing you need to have. If you don't have a Zoom account, go to zoom.us, create a Zoom account. First thing. Okay, you can use your personal email ID, you can use your work email ID. Either one of them would work to create a Zoom account. So it doesn't really matter which one you use, but have a Zoom account. Okay, firstly. Secondly, there are two things you will need to know. One is, on your system, whichever you're going to be using, you will need to have the Zoom application. Okay, and the Zoom application is going to be the point where you're going to see all your meetings, where you're going to probably start the meetings, where you want to edit the meetings, and so on. Okay, so that's the first thing you need. And I'll pass you all these slides at the end. So, you don't worry about getting the information off of this. I'll pass you everything at the end. That's the first thing you need. And the second thing you need to understand is, how do I use the zoom.us website to do a few things? And I'll be teaching you both the sides of this today. Okay. Now, what does the Zoom application look like when you start the application? Now, anywhere you log in, anywhere you want to get into Zoom, be it the application or be the website, you'll need a user email ID and password to log in. Right? So make sure that your Zoom account has a good password and you log in with whatever you created. Okay. The moment you log into your Zoom application, this is what you are going to see on the screen. Okay. And we're going to talk about a few of these buttons at this point, and then logically we'll move to each and every one of them as I speak. Okay. So you'll be seeing these 4 tabs on top: home, chat, meetings, and contacts. The more important ones for you to take care of are home and meetings. Okay. The other ones are probably not so important for you at this point. Home is basically where you are going to either start or schedule a meeting if you want to, or you
Excuse
join somebody else.
Aditya, hello.
Excuse
Sorry,
me.
I
Are you
haven't shared your
showing us?
screen.
Are you showing us something?
I
I can't see.
shared your screen, Aditya.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, can you see this now?
Yes, you're right. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, apologies. So let me just get back. Okay, so first thing is you need to install your Zoom account. Okay, and I'll share across all these links later. Secondly, when you open your Zoom application which you have installed, you're going to be seeing this as the first point of contact for you. So that's where you'll sign in with your email address and password. Now, this is the same email address and password you're going to be using when you sign in on your web as well. Okay, so don't worry about that. Third thing is when you sign into the application, this is what you're going to see. And there are a few things which are important for you here at this point in time. The first important thing for you is the home button, and the second important thing for you is the meetings button. The other two you can leave it to rest for now. We don't need to talk about them. Why is the home button important? Because the home button is where you can actually do a few things. Number one is you can start an ad hoc meeting if you wish to, and this would probably be done in rare cases. But if you wish to start just a meeting without scheduling one, you can do that from here. Secondly, you can schedule a meeting. Although I will be showing you a better way of scheduling meetings from the web, not from the app. Thirdly, if somebody gives you a meeting ID and a password to join, you can use the join button here to do that. Okay, so those are the 3 main important things you should know here. And the second thing is on the meetings tab. That's where you're going to see all your scheduled meetings. Okay, so whatever you schedule, you're going to see on the meetings tab on the left hand pane here. And on the right hand pane, you will have the option to start the meeting. You will have the option to copy the invitation if you want to send it to somebody else, and edit or delete the meeting. Okay. The most important part for you again here is to be able to monitor that these are the upcoming meetings and start them at the appropriate time. From an application perspective, these are the 2 main important things which you need to know. I would suggest that you don't need to know anything else at this point in time. Okay. Because Zoom makes certain things very complicated, where it should have been very simple. But let's just say, okay, we have these for now, and we're going to use some of these things. Now, how do you join a meeting? As I said, you can click on the join button to join the meeting. That's one thing you're going to do. When you click the join button, this is what you're going to see. The meeting ID and the password. So a meeting ID and your name. So let's say one of your participants or students is using the app. You can give them the guideline that when you start the application, when you click on the join button, you'll see a meeting ID and a name. Make sure you enter the meeting ID which has been sent to you. Enter your full name or your full registered name, because that's how you're going to be monitoring the student who's come into the class, right? Because often what happens is people join to a session, with their name being iPhone. Now I am never going to know who's iPhone unless I'm, and I cannot admit him into the meeting if I don't know who he is. So you got to give the guideline saying that please, while joining a meeting, make sure you enter your full name or registered name. Now, after this, when they click join, they will be prompted with a password which you will have given them. So they'll enter the password and join into the meeting. And once they join in the meeting, you will be here like you are here today. Okay, so that's what they will also be seeing. So if it asks for the password, you ask them to enter the password and you sign in. Now, what are the different functions of Zoom that you need to essentially have a know-how about when you are the host of the meeting? And in most cases, you are going to be the host because you're the one scheduling the meeting, you're the one running the class. Okay. What are the different functions? Now, the Zoom interface, once you start a meeting, is going to look like this. Your bottom half of the screen is going to contain all the functions. And these are the functions which you would be using when you're not sharing anything. So when you're at your initial point. Okay. What are some of these different functions? The ones highlighted in the red box are basically the functions to control the audio and the video. Okay. And you will see these when you hover down on your Zoom window on the bottom bar. You can see that even on your end, the first two functions as a participant are the mic for the audio and the video icon for the video. So using that, you can either start or stop your video, or you can mute or unmute yourself, right? So again, the advisory when you're giving out should be that, please use this button to mute yourself whenever you're not speaking. When you want to speak, unmute yourself and then, you speak. So this is how you're supposed to engage with that button, right? So for example, if I turn off my video now, you can't see me, but when I turn it on again, you can see. So that's the basic functionality, and you can all try it with your Zoom as well, because you will have that on the bottom bar. Okay. Now, these are simple things. These are things which you need to know because this is the basic functionality. Okay. I see a lot of blinking happening on the videos. Okay. Cool. Second thing is you might or might not be able to use this per guidelines of different organizations, but just for your knowledge, virtual backgrounds are a part of Zoom and was introduced a little while back, where if you feel that your background is not appropriate for a class setting, okay, you could change your background to be something which is more conducive for that environment. So you could just have a white plain background. You can just have a a blue color, pink color, whatever you feel is more conducive, and have that as a background. Right? So that what it does is it blocks people if they're walking behind you or stuff like that. Right? So if you have movement around you, it's a good option. So when you click on that, it'll take you to a window where you can actually see a lot of images. You can click some of the images and either one to see how it works, right? So I see a couple of you have those in your background already, I think, and you can try using that with different backgrounds. Now these, again, there is a hardware requirement. So on some of your computers, if your computer is a little older and is a dual core processor, it might not work. So for me, for example, you'll see that it's pretty clear. For some of you, if you put it on and it's not compatible, it won't be clear. The virtual background will still come on. It won't be clear. In that case, it would be better to turn it off, and you can do that. So if you see Pranjal's video, he's showing you an example of what it would look like if you did it from a computer which does not support virtual background. So you see that some of his face has been, it looks like Hollow Man, right? Basically erased off and stuff like that. So that's not something you want to scare the kids with. It's better just to keep a plain background at the end of the day. Okay, now comes one of the more important parts. Okay, security. If you see this tab here, the security tab was a newly added feature and is accessible to the host of the meeting. And this is where you control a few things the participants can do, right? What are some of the things you control here? There are 5 basic things or 5 important things you should know. Number 1 is rename themselves, meaning that whenever a participant joins a meeting, do they have or do they not have the ability to change their name? Okay. So if you tick that, it means that they can rename themselves. If you uncheck that, it means they can not rename themselves. So for example, as of now, you see that all of you, when you hover over your name in the participants window, you'll have an option to rename. So when you click more, you'll have an option to rename yourself to some other name, right? Do you all see that? Do you see an option to rename yourself? Yes, right? Now, if I, for example, turn that off, and if you now try to go and see that whether you have that option, you'll see that the option is not there anymore, right? Why? Because I have used the security feature to turn off that. And whatever you're doing on on Zoom is not going to be visible to the participants. So don't worry about that. The fact that, okay, you're turning something off in front of them and they can see it. None of the participants can see what you're doing on Zoom. It's all only on your end. Okay. Even when you're sharing your screen. Like for example, now I'm sharing my screen, but you can't see that I'm switching off the rename. Right. Second important thing is, do you want to allow the participants to chat amongst themselves? So a lot of times what happens is people send messages to each other privately. And if you don't want that to happen, then you just switch that off. Third thing, do they have the ability to share their screen? If you don't want them to share their screen, you turn it off. And in most cases, you would turn it off. If you want them to show you something, you can turn it on for that moment and allow them to share what they want. And then you turn it off again once they're done. Fourth thing is enable waiting room. And enable waiting room is a feature which is very important to all of you, because if you notice, for some of you people, when you join the Zoom meeting, it says you are in the waiting room, please wait for the host to let you in. Right? Some of you saw that, some of you didn't see that. Some of you saw that because at the point when I started the meeting, I had enabled the waiting room. What it allows you to do is, and I'll show you an image a little later on, what it allows you to do is it basically allows you to see the name of a person before you admit them into the meeting. So they come up on your participants window, and I'll show that to you, and you can verify the name against your attendance list or your checklist, and then you can admit them if they match. And the last one is lock meeting. So let's say and you got to use this with a little bit of caution, because lock meeting, what happens with lock meeting is the moment you lock the meeting, nobody can join the meeting. So it means that it's locked out for anybody to join. So if you think all your participants have joined in and you don't want anybody else to come, you can lock the meeting. But remember one thing, when you lock the meeting, if somebody gets dropped, they cannot rejoin the meeting as well, right? Because the meeting has been locked. So you got to make sure that whenever you're using it, you notice whether somebody's getting dropped or not. The next button is the participants button. All of you can see this as well on your bottom menu. The participants button is basically going to show you a list of everybody who is in the meeting. Okay. And as a host, you would have the ability to mute and unmute them when you hover over their names. Right? So in case you hear a lot of noise, you can mute them if they don't do it themselves. Now, at the bottom of the participants window, do you notice some of these characters here in your participants window or your chat window? Now, what the participants will see are some of these characters if you, from the settings, switch on non-verbal feedback, and I'll show that to you in the settings, which basically allows them to use some icons to indicate certain things. So if you say, can you put a tick on the chat, can you put a tick mark if you think all of you have understood? So if you ask this, then they can just put a tick, right? And then you can see that on the participants window that all of you have put a tick, right? So can you try putting a tick mark on by yourself as well? So for example, yeah, correct. Okay, great. So all of you are able to put the tick marks, right? So the tick marks basically are an indication to you. Now, what happens is, at least what I've noticed, amongst a lot of people, is that their behavior is they won't talk a lot during the session, during the class, but they'll put tick marks silently. So it's better you can give them some non-verbal kind of method to do that. Similarly, you have other icons like no and go slower and faster. You can ask them to use it. And at the end, if you want to clear all of them, you just press the clear all, everything goes away. Okay. For example, this is what I just showed you. In the participants window, what you will see, or what the host will see, is he will see 3 buttons here. One is the invite, one is the mute all, and one is unmute all. Generally, what we do is whenever we have people joining in, we would mute them. And when you click the mute all button, you get a dialog window like this, which says current and new participants will be muted, and whether you want the participants to unmute themselves or not. So if you take this button, it means that if the participants want to ask something, they can unmute themselves. If not, they will not be able to unmute themselves unless you unmute them. So that helps you basically maintain some silence. If you're a person who cannot tolerate a lot of noise, silence is golden, so you can use that. Unmute all, which is what I did, was to basically unmute everybody. So it'll show you a dialog box saying the host wants to unmute you. Click yes, and then you get unmuted. So that's pretty much the use of the participants window. There are 3 dots here, at the end, which you see. The 3 dots basically give you a few more options, which are same as what I showed you earlier. You can use this menu also to basically either allow participants to mute or unmute, rename, enable the waiting room, log the meeting. So similar to what you saw in the security, you can do some things from here as well. Okay. I have a question. It says, can the password be same for all the meetings? Okay. Let me get to that. The password can be same for all the meetings. I'll get to that in a bit when we create meetings. So this is how the waiting room is basically going to look like. So whenever somebody is in the waiting room, on the participants window is going to show you a message that so many people are waiting. And when you hover over their name, you can actually see their full name. And if you think they're part of your class, then you can click on admit, then they'll come in the class. Okay. So this is very important for you to enable, else you won't be able to monitor somebody before that person enters the class. That's something you have to take care of. Okay. Any questions so far at this point? Let me take a pause here. Any questions you guys want to ask at this point?
Yeah, just now when we flash the icons for clapping, for raising hands, can you hear me? Yeah, my question is, does it attract attention to the instructor? Like when I turn on clap just now, I don't see it on my screen. Can you see it when I turn it on just now?
So when you turn on clap, what happens is if you're using the icons here, it comes up on the participants window. Okay, and it doesn't provide any auditory feedback for you.
No,
you would have to be so you would have to be monitoring the participants window to see that icon. Okay?
No sound.
I'll show you no sound. So I'll show you another method which basically you can also use, which comes up on the video itself, and that probably gives you an ability for more interaction. So let me get to that, and maybe you can then compare which one is something you can use. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yeah. Go ahead, one at a time, please.
Yeah, so I'll probably go first. For the chat function, right? Are you able to limit the participants to only send the chat to everyone rather than having the option to send chats among themselves?
Yeah. So when you basically, if you saw the slide here where I showed you the security option, in the security option, when you uncheck this, they will not be able to send chat amongst themselves. They will only be able to send chats to everyone or you.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Yeah, somebody else also had a question, sorry. Okay, no more questions? Okay.
No, I have one. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Datta. Thanks for your time and letting us know how to actually the additional features in Zoom. But Mostly my concern in this virtual classes is actually how to keep the students engaged, and how to be able to show them the materials without any with time efficiency, so that we don't waste their time. So I was wondering, would you be covering this?
So I'll be covering a bit on how you can share different things, but uh, I won't be exactly covering, a teacher's perspective of how
Hello
to
there.
keep students engaged. Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah, yeah, now I can. I'm so sorry. Everything you said before just got like cut away.
Okay. So what I was saying is, I will be covering some part of how you can, share certain things using your screen and using the whiteboard. But what I won't be covering
Yeah.
is, I won't be taking over the role of a teacher and covering the part of what are the engagement methodologies you should be using to
Okay.
engage with the students. So
Okay.
uh, we can open it up for discussion at the end, and we can talk a
Sure.
little bit more about it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah.
Okay, this is David here. Just now, when you have the security on the sharing of the screen, when you enable it means to say that everybody at that time can so-called share the screen, or you can enable a specific participant to share.
No, so what this means is everybody at that time, or everybody would be allowed to share their screen. So there's no functionality where you can enable, a particular person to only share.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, if you make them co-hosts, they will be able to share.
Yeah, that's once you make them a co-host, but I'm not sure what the guidelines are at this point. I'll talk about making a co-host and stuff a little later, but assuming they're all a participant, then they won't be able to hear.
Okay, sorry, I'm just going to butt in here quickly. Okay, based on CDAC's requirements, we can't make them the co-host, okay? Because the teachers are only going to be the host. So the students can't be the co-host at all, because once you make a student the co-host, you don't know who else they're going to invite into the class.
Yes.
Or what other stuff they're going to put inside it. So the students can never be the co-host. So if you're going to get the students to share something, then like what Aditya says, we will enable the share screen just for that particular moment. And then after that, we will disable the function back again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me go a little bit ahead, and then we'll take a few more questions at the second logical pause. So chat option again. You have the chat option to just chat, and you have a few things inside this. First thing is you can type your message and send it to everybody here. That goes to everybody, so everybody can see that. Secondly, you have a file option here. So if your guidelines permit, if you click on the file, you can actually share a file from your local computer to everyone, so that they can download it at their end in case you need to share any file. And also, when you click the drop down box here, what you'll see is everybody's name come up, meaning if you want to send a chat privately to somebody, you can send it. So as a host, you will have the ability to send messages privately to any participant. So for example, let's say I'm sending a message to Uzair, so he's going to receive it privately. So he won't be able, none of the others will be able to see it, and he can reply back to me privately as well, so that none of you see it, right? So that's how the chat essentially works. It's very simple and straightforward. There's nothing complicated about the chat. So that's one thing you'll have to be monitoring when you're doing the the lessons. In case you ask them to type something on the chat, you'll have to monitor the chat box. Okay. Now, one of the most prominent things you're going to be doing when you're using Zoom is you're going to be sharing. Okay, you're going to be sharing your screen. So the moment you want to share something, you see this green button here at the bottom as a host, and you can click the green button. Okay. Now, the moment you click the green button, what happens is you get a big window showing you a few things. Okay. What are the few things you can share? And I'll show you some of this as well. The first thing you'll see on your top right here, and we're going to stick to the basic, okay? We don't want to go into the advanced. We just stick to the basic. You can share your screen, meaning anything you pop up on your screen is something they can see. Okay, so anything you're doing on the screen, they'll be able to see. If you're using dual monitor, so if you have two monitors, you can choose to share either screen 1 or screen 2. For example, at this moment, I have screen 1 shared, in which you can see the presentation, and in screen 2, I have all of your videos there. So I can actually see you on screen 2 and I have screen 1 shared. In case you're using only one screen, you can just share that screen and then share whatever content you want on that. You can see the videos of the participants in a small strip at the bottom or on your right-hand side based on how many participants you have. Right? So it won't take up too much of space. You can adjust it accordingly. Right? Second thing you can share is something called a whiteboard. And let's see if I can share that and show you what that looks like. So do you guys see a whiteboard shared? Right? Do you see a whiteboard shared?
Yes.
Now, on the whiteboard, what you'll get is you'll get the ability to do certain things, okay? Like, annotate and draw, and basically, if you want to draw some diagram showing some science process or something of that sort, you have shapes to draw and stuff. So this is like you using a physical whiteboard in a room. You can use your mouse to draw on this. So I'll show you all the functions which come up on the slide. Okay. Can you guys see my presentation again?
Yes.
Okay. The third thing you can do is you can choose to share a specific application. So let's say, for example, you want to share a presentation. You don't want to share your whole screen. Then you can choose that I want to share only my presentation. So what that will do is, let's say you're doing something else on your screen. Let's say you're bringing up your browser on top of your presentation. Nobody will be able to see that browser. They can still see the presentation, right? But what you need to take care of is, let's say from a presentation, you're switching to another window. They won't be able to see that window because they're just seeing the presentation. So what you would have to do in that case is you would have to click on new share and share the new thing. I'll show you that in a bit. Okay. So you have three basic options: to share your whole screen, to share a whiteboard, or to share a particular application which is running on your system. Okay. The next thing which is quite important is something called the annotation tool. And the annotation tool, in case you're not using any other software, is to highlight certain things on what you're presenting. Let's say, for example, I want to draw a box around the annotation tool word. So I can use my annotation tool and do something like this. So that's something you all can see on your screen. So let's say you're doing some mathematics and you want to highlight the solution. You can pull up the annotation as a host and you can do this as well. Okay. Now, at this point in time, what I've done is I have also allowed for all of you to annotate. Right? So if you actually see your window, you'll be able to see that you can also annotate. So why don't you all try opening that annotation up and just doing something on this slide? So that, yeah, right? So you'll see that when all of you pull up the annotation tool, there are a few options there, right? You have the option to write some text. You have the option to draw something. It could be freehand or it could be particular shapes.
Aditya, I can't seem to find the annotation tool on my screen, and there's another message also. I'm not sure if you're able to see that.
I'm seeing the messages, but you're not able to see the annotation on your bar.
Yep.
Yeah, me too. I can't see the annotate button on my bar.
Yeah, and neither can I see through here.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody else who's able to draw is able to see that?
No.
I can.
I think you to take a look at the view options, bring your cursor right up to the top of the screen, and then you have a view options there. Click on the view options.
Yeah, I find it. I saw it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a view option.
I think it's at the top of the screen. It says like you're viewing Aditya's screen, and
Yeah,
then beside
and
it, it
beside
says
it, yeah.
options.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, no instruction that I'm viewing Aditya's screen, etc. Nothing. I just
Thank
have
you.
to start video, share content, etc.
I saw the view options.
Okay. I mean, no worries. In case you can't get it now, when you actually are driving a meeting, you should be able to see it at that point in time. Okay. So, you see on my screen, I have a very good artistic modern art view on my screen, which all of you have put up. So those are the different functions you can do while doing annotation. So it helps you run the class a little more smoothly.
Excuse me. This annotation applies to any application that you show that you're presenting.
Yes, correct. So any application that you're presenting, you can use the annotation tool. Just note that, let's say you want to switch from one slide to the next slide. In that case, the annotations will still remain. So for example, I'm switching to the next slide. The annotations still remain. So make sure you clear the annotations before switching an application or moving to the next slide. So you have a clear option, which you'll see here, for example. So when you click on clear, you'll have an option to say clear all drawings, and that'll get rid of everything on the screen. Okay.
That's the trash can, right?
The trash can, correct.
Yes, the trash can, yeah.
Yeah, just one thing. Just now the whiteboard, right? The participants cannot actually write on the whiteboard. Only the host.
So okay, so when you actually switch on the whiteboard, right? What you can also do is you can allow participants to annotate on the whiteboard. So when in the security feature, as soon as you switch on annotation, you get another feature saying, can you allow participants to annotate? So when they see the whiteboard, just say that please use the annotate tool to write on the whiteboard. So they'll be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I think I need to switch off annotation. People are having a good time. Okay, so that's a little bit about the annotation tool. Again, a very useful feature. I've told you about the whiteboard sharing. So when you share a whiteboard, you're going to get, like an annotation tool, you're going to get a similar bar here, which allows you to choose between what you want to write. So it's the same bar replicated when you're sharing a whiteboard. Okay. Now, when you want to stop sharing or when you want to do a new share, okay, first things first, whenever you're sharing, right, all the options will now come on the top for you here. Okay, they're no more going to be at the bottom. They're all going to come on the top of your shared screen. So if you hover over, the top of your shared screen, you'll see all these options pop up. Now, you have two options there. One is called stop share, which you see, beside your screen sharing. And the other one is a new share. What is the difference between both of this? So the difference between both of this is that when you stop share, whatever you're sharing completely gets stopped. Okay, that's quite simple to understand. When you do a new share, what happens is whatever you're showing on the screen currently is still there. And while you're choosing what you want to share, the previous content still remains. So, if you don't want, let's say, people to get a view of your desktop or of something else, then you could just click on the new share button, and then you can say, okay, I want to share another application or my other screen, or I want to share something else. Okay, so that is basically replacing the existing share with something new. So that's another useful option you can use when you're doing, say, when you're sharing particular applications. So when you're sharing a presentation and you want to switch to sharing a PDF, you can just say new share and you can select the PDF. So that will change the share to a PDF. That's something you can use and incorporate as well. Okay. Okay. Let me see if there are any questions here. Okay. How do you share screen? Okay, so I have a question which says, if possible later on, how do you share screen 1 and screen 2? I have been wanting to do this for a long time. Okay, I probably didn't understand the question very correctly. Do you mean that both these screens are connected, right? So your screen 2 is an extended screen of screen 1. Because if, let's say, that's the case, then when you do a share, then on the share you'll get an option to basically choose between screen 1 and screen 2. So you can like I showed you on this slide here, so you'll get an option to choose between screen 1 and screen 2. So you can click on either one of those to see what you want to share. Is it possible only to share one screen at a time, or can a presentation and whiteboard be shared at the same time? No. So you would have to share, one screen at a particular point in time. There is no facility where you can share both the screens together. I wouldn't advise you to share both the screens together, even though there might be. What happens is your resolution becomes too big. There are ways to do it. Your resolution becomes too big. People actually can't see what the screens are showing. When you're sharing the whiteboard, you're only sharing the whiteboard. So, that's something, again, which you need to make sure you know.
It's just a question here. So while we're on the topic of sharing screens and using the whiteboards,
Yep.
I teach physics and chemistry, and sometimes the solutions require us to write these steps elaborately on the whiteboard. And to do that with a mouse and this whiteboard functionality is going to be really tough. So I was just wondering if anybody has any experience in using Zoom to conveniently write out the solutions, other than just writing out the answers, which the answer key already provides. I mean, I can share the answer key to the students, but sometimes they require us to actually work out the steps. So in that case, any suggestions from any of you who have done these sessions through Zoom?
I mean, one of the things you can use is if you see on the whiteboard, you have a text option here. The text option basically allows you to type something or copy paste something from somewhere else if you need to. So let's say you want to actually type step 1 is this without using a pen. You can use this text option and then actually writes like a text. So for example, if I'm writing something here, which is, let's say, step 1, heat something, right? So you'll see that I can actually type it as a piece of text there, which then you don't need to write, right?
Does
so
the
that's
text
one.
have any mathematical formulae? Because sometimes we have to use symbols and...
Actually,
No.
like for me, what I do, like I've done, like, cause I teach math, right? And it's a bit hard to write, like, like the symbols, like what you've mentioned. So actually, what I do, I use PowerPoint, and like before the lesson itself, I write in a piece of paper, and then like I put it on PowerPoint, and then I like put it like there's 1, 2, 3. You can like how do I say, transition the thing. So when you click on the PowerPoint, you just click enter, and then it shows like step 1, which is like the first thing you've written, and then second thing. So that's what I do lah.
Okay.
Another option is just okay. This is what some of the teachers in the tuition centers they do. But this is if you have the equipment. Some of them, because like some of the laptops, you can actually write on the laptops if you have a pen, right? Or some of your iPads, if you have the pen, you can actually write on the iPad itself. So that's another option for you to write things out. I mean, that's an easier way to write things out. I know it's difficult to use the mouse to write on the whiteboard, but if you're using an iPad that you can write on, or you're using one of those laptops which has a pen that you can write onto the laptop, that's another option that you all can consider.
Can we possibly use? Can I use my laptop as well as my iPad at the same time?
Yes, you can. You can share your iPad as part of your laptop. Under the screen share just now, you will have seen that one of the options besides the advanced button is to share the iPad. But you need to install a plugin for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's also a function called the screen mirror, which is through AirPlay. So you don't need to connect your iPad via a cable. It's called screen mirror, if I'm not mistaken, and it allows you to share it through AirPlay. You don't even have to connect it through a cable. So that might help.
So connect by what?
You don't have to connect it via a cable. There's a function on your iPad and your iPhone actually that's called screen mirror. So
Bluetooth,
it will
is
pick
it?
up the signal. Yeah,
No, it's through Wi-Fi. It's through Wi-Fi.
Through Wi-Fi,
Wi-Fi.
yeah, and I've done
Oh,
it
okay.
quite successfully. It does work
See.
on Zoom because iPad, the Apple has actually patched a lot of their services to it's configured quite well for Zoom, the Zoom platform.
Screen mirror, eh?
Yeah, it's called screen mirror. In case you don't
Okay.
want to connect to your cable, and it works very, very well because I've actually done maths using my stylus, my Apple stylus pen with my iPad, and I've shared the screen for my Zoom lessons, and it works very, very well.
Thank you. This is Sumitri, right?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much.
You can also use like typing the text and the drawing tool to do the formula. That is what I do when I actually share my whiteboard with my students when I do science and math. On the annotation button, right, you have a text and a drawing tool. So you can use both combination and do it.
Drawing still, you use mouse to draw?
No, like, I don't know whether I can show you the screen to, maybe Aditya can help.
No, I mean, did you use mouse to draw?
No, what I mean is, you see on the annotation button, you have a text box, right?
Oh, so you type.
Yeah, so you use that to type, like say 25, but degrees, you don't have a degree there. So you can use the drawing tool, which is next beside that, and you can use that to.
Okay.
How about I let you share screen and then you want to quickly show that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop mine. You can share your screen, and if you want to quickly show that, you can.
This is 55 using this, right? Then I can use this drawing tool and put a degree there. The same thing if I want to do like fraction divide, right? We cannot use the divide sign itself. I can just put 3 and I put a 5. Then I use this to put a line beside that. Hang on, no? Yeah, so this becomes a fraction.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
of that.
It's just that moving the mouse is not as fast as, you know, using a stylus, for example.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it probably not everybody would also have a stylus on hand. Some people might, you know, still be using the computer and the mouse. So I guess this for them could be useful.
Right, surface test, then you can do it. But I use that only for Google Meet because I can use it on the spot when I want to share the screen. But for Zoom, I don't use that. I just use.
Okay, thank you so much. I think those are very good ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, I just noticed a useful note left by someone in the chat. You know, after this meeting is over, I mean, is there any way I could keep those notes? I mean, in the chat, like the virtual tablet, there's a link to it. Maybe I can explore, you know, after the meeting.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, you can save.
Save, yeah.
There's an option of saving right at the end of the meeting.
After the meeting ended, yeah.
You can also use, sorry, you can also use these tools, right? Like if you want to highlight something, suppose there's a text, you can use this to highlight. And you can use this to circle. This is for the arrow. Like you want to write an equation, say balance equation for chemistry, you can use this arrow. So these are the tools what I use when I teach science and math.
Okay, cool. And thanks for sharing that. I think that's pretty useful. And I think, you know, people can take away some of those, you know, all the points collectively. I think brainstorming is the best way to know how things work now. So I think that's very useful information. Okay, so how about we move a little bit ahead and then we stop at another point and then take some more questions then. So I'll quickly share my screen again. Just give me a sec, and we can get ahead. So I think we were at a point where we were talking a lot about sharing and whiteboards and stuff. So I think there were good insights there as well from everybody else. So thank you for that. What are the last things on the tab, which on the bottom ribbon or bar, which you can essentially see, is something called the reactions button. And what this reactions button allows you to do is it basically allows you to put up a thumbs up or hi sign, something like this on the video of the participant itself. So you're not looking now into the participant's pane, but on the video itself. So for example, if I ask you, have you understood, and then I'm looking at the video, you say put up a thumbs up. So all of you can click the reactions and click on thumbs up, and that's going to put up a thumbs up on your video. So I see some of you have already put it up. So all of you can essentially try to do that. So that's again a visual feature which draws your attention, which you can also use, which is probably a little bit better than the icons you see on the participants window. So if you're not very adept to so many screens at the same time, because you would have realized by now that you have participants window, chat window, you're sharing your screen, then you have the video and so many things at the same time, you could maybe minimize your interactions by saying, okay, these are the two things we're going to use, and we're going to use the chat. That's it. So it's easier work for you at the end of the day. So you can basically choose as to what methodology you want to adopt. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about breakout rooms a little bit, only in brief. I'm not going to talk a lot because I don't know how much you're going to be using breakout rooms. But there's a functionality in Zoom which basically allows you to create a separate area for communication interaction with participants. So think about it like you're in your living room and you have your bedroom. Now let's say you wanted to talk to your wife or husband and you wanted to scold them. You'll say, hey, come to the bedroom, right? And you're going to scold them there so that none of the people in the living room can hear. So similarly, when you're on Zoom, you can have a separate private area if you want to privately talk to somebody, and that's called a breakout room. So for the host, whoever's the host of the meeting, they can see a button here if breakout rooms are enabled, which will allow them to create breakout rooms. So when you click on this button here, what happens is it asks how many rooms do you want to create, right? So you can create one room, you can create two rooms, you can create n number of rooms. So let's say you want to have a one-on-one discussion with somebody. You say, okay, let me create one room, and I want to assign that person manually. You would most of the times choose manually because you would want to choose who to put inside the room. Okay, and we just click create rooms. So what happens then is as soon as you click create rooms, it creates a breakout room for you. And here, using the assign button, you can essentially assign the person you want into the breakout room. So when you click assign, it will show you a list of all the participants. You can actually click on the participant name and then they'll be inside the room. Once they're inside the room, you can click on open all rooms. Then that will basically take them into the breakout room. You'll have a button here called join. You can join. You can have a one-on-one discussion. The interface there will be exactly the same. You can do exactly all the same things, just that now people in the main room cannot see what you're doing, cannot hear you, cannot do anything, but they'll all still be there. At the end of your discussion, you just click leave breakout room and you come back to the main session, right? So it's as simple as that. So if you want to, basically talk to somebody in private, or, you're, let's say, assigning students to, do some kind of pair work or something of that sort, you can, put them into breakout rooms and, do it. So this is one of the things we use a lot when we used to do things like pair programming and projects in pairs and groups. We say everybody had their own breakout rooms to discuss, because they can then chat amongst themselves without chatting with the others. So they can have voice interactions, they can type and chat, whatever they want. And you can go into each room and monitor whenever you feel like. So that's a useful feature, though I'm not sure again whether how much you're going to be using it. But again, that's something you can possibly try out, at least try out, so that you know how to use it, right? At the end of a meeting, whenever you're going to leave a meeting and the meeting is over, you can click on the leave meeting button at the bottom. Once you stop sharing your screen, you'll have two options as a host. You can either end meeting for all, or you can leave meeting. When you click on leave meeting, it'll ask you, okay, you're leaving the meeting. Do you want to make somebody else as the host of the meeting, because you're leaving it and going? So you can assign somebody else as the host if the meeting is an ongoing meeting and needs to continue. Else, what will happen is when you click end meeting for all, it'll just end the meeting for everybody. So it'll stop for everybody. So the advisory is that whenever, let's say it's the end of the class, you end the meeting for everybody else. Okay, so that none of the others have the opportunity to stay on and do something on the meeting while you're not there. So just make sure you end it. Okay. So let's get you guys to try out a few things. I'm going to make somebody the host, and what we'll try out is you can explore a few things which I just told you, things like the security feature, things like maybe the whiteboards, sharing your screen, and stuff like that. Just try to do it. So just don't end the meeting for everybody, okay, when you're the host. So just make sure you don't end the meeting for everybody. So who would like to volunteer to become the host? Do we have any volunteers who want to try out? I see kids raising their hand, but what about the parents? Okay, who's there? Okay. Is there you want to try out? Okay, let me make you the host, and then. Okay, so just one thing, before I pass Uzair the host. Remember, I told you that in your participants window you have those different things like tick mark and cross sign and all of those. One thing is that within all of those, let me take you there. Yeah, here. Within all of these, right, you see this more option here. When you click on the more option, right, you get an option to raise hand. Okay. Now, when you raise hand, that is the only interaction which gives you a small message on the top right corner of your screen saying this person raised his hand. So in case you want to use this feature in the first place, then you can ask them, use the raise hand button if you want to draw my attention. So that will still not give you an auditory cue, but it will be a visual cue on your shared content. So on the top right, you'll see, for example, Uzair just raised his hand. So Uzair Khan raised his hand. That's what comes on the top, right? So when somebody is the host, one of us will raise our hand, and then you'll be able to see that. Right? Okay. So let me make Uzair the host, and then you can try out a few things with us. And once you're done, I'll take back the host from you. Okay, so you're the host now. So why don't you, tell us a few things to do, or tell everybody else a few things you want to try out, and let's get them to try out a few things. You can unmute your mic, when you want to speak up.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just raise my hand a few times, and I'll ask a few of you to raise your hands a few times so I can see. and at the same time I'll share my screen. I guess I'm using my phone, so I wouldn't be able to illustrate a lot of the equipments in the Zoom app.
Okay. No worries.
Cool. So who's going to raise their hand first? Miss Lynn. So I can see, yeah, there's another person who also raised their hands. Once you see that symbol, you can click on it, and then you can see the entire list of hands coming out. Let me just share my screen and then show this to you guys. Hello? Yeah, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I'll just wait. What is this? Hold on. Yeah, so you can see right now there are 9 people raising their hands. If I just click at that, the entire list comes up. So from here, you can actually pick out. So for example, Miss Lynn, right? I click her and then her entire profile opens up. And once I've dealt with Miss Lynn, then I can just click herself and then put lower hand, right? And then Miss Lynn is gone. So now if I want to look at, for example, Ravi has a question, I answer his question, and after that, I lower his hand. So now I have 7 people, and I can individually deal all one of them, and then can remove their hands, right? Can you guys see everything? Is it clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So with that, once my screen is also shared, I think I can't put a white screen here though. Let me just check.
You're on your
Yeah,
phone,
yeah,
right?
I can actually. I can.
Right.
So here's the whiteboard, and then over here, let's do a very simple sum. For example, hold on. Yeah, 10 divided by 2, right? And I mean, I know it's super simple, but let's just keep it simple so we can get the idea across. And if I ask for answers, then to remove all of them, I can just press the lower button over here, lower all hands, and everyone's gone. And now if I ask somebody for an answer, then they can again raise their hands and you can get it over here and individually choose one of them. I think this should be enough, right, Aditya, or do you need me to do something else too?
I think that's good, and I see that you have used this before and you know quite a few things here as well. So I think that's good. Right. So I can take one more if somebody else. Can you just make me the host again?
Sure. Just give me a while.
Anybody who's not used Zoom a lot before wants to try this out.
You guys can't see my screen anymore, right? Oh, no, you can. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you're the host and my screen's gone. Good.
Yeah. Thanks.
No worries.
Anybody else who's not used Zoom a lot before wants to try out? Or would you like to just try out in your own space later on? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll probably let that, okay? Okay. Let me just quickly share my screen again and then we'll get to the last few things. So as a participant, you now know some of the stuff which is available to you. So just remember that as per the settings which you set, the participants will have access to either the audio, video, the chat, participants window, and the icons there. If you enable the share screen, they can share their screen. And if reactions are available, they can have the reactions there as well. Right. So some of the basic things is what they'll have. They'll have access to the annotation again if you enable that. And those are things you'll have to do on the fly. So you'll have to understand the nuances of managing certain things on the fly, because you can't expect every time to go down the way you want it to. Right? So there are certain things which should happen as you do it. Now let's just create some Zoom meetings, and there are a lot of people here who have used Zoom to some extent, and a lot of people here who haven't used Zoom to some extent. So I'm going to show you a way you can directly do it through the Zoom website. I'm not going to show you the application bit today, but because in applications, sometimes if it's let's say linked to your Outlook or linked to your Gmail, it's going to open that and set the meeting in your calendar as well. So not to confuse you, I'll just show you how you can do it using the Zoom website. So let's just quickly go there and see how to do that. Along with that, what we are also going to be seeing is some of the settings you would need to be aware about before you create a meeting, right? Just to make sure that there are certain things which are enabled, certain things which are disabled. So let me take you to these two things, and then again we'll get to any questions at the end. So now that you see, I'm sharing my whole desktop, so you can actually see everything which is open on my desktop. If I minimize this, you'll be able to see my whole desktop and things like that. So in case you don't want that to happen, you can share an application anyway. So okay, so once you've created an account, you can go to the website, which is zoom.us, and you can go to your account. Okay, let me first sign out of my existing account and then take you back through the process. So once you're at this page, you can sign in. You can sign in using the your account credentials. So let's say I just use. And once you sign in, you'll be able to see a lot of options on the screen. Okay, now some of these options might not be something you need, but there are two things which are important to you at this point. Number one is meetings and how to schedule a meeting. We'll come to that. And number two is settings, which we're going to see first. So if I click the settings option, you'll have three tabs on the top. One is meeting, one is recording, another one is telephone. We'll just look at meeting and recording. We don't need this option here. Now, when by default we're on meeting, now what does this basically contain, and what do you need to do to make sure that the meeting you're creating is secure and it basically follows the options you have set for it, right? So I'm not going to go to through each and every one of these settings. You're going to get individual guidelines of what to set, but I want to make you aware of where you can set them and what are some of the key things you need to know. So under meetings, you'll have a few different categories. So what happens during the meeting, what happens when you're scheduling, what happens is there an email notification, and others. These are different categories. So under scheduled meeting, you basically have the option to either allow participants to start their meeting with their video turned on, or if you don't want that to happen, you can turn it off. As per the guidelines, you need the participants' video to be turned on by default. So you will enable it so that when participants come on, their video is on when they come in, so that you can validate that they are the person who they claim to be, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is you need to make sure that the join before host is off, meaning that nobody can join before you join. Okay, that's an important thing because you're the one who's going to be validating and taking attendance and all of these things. So they cannot join before you. Third thing is you make sure that your participants are muted upon entry. So this is an option you keep on, meaning that the moment they come in, they're muted. You can unmute them to ask any questions you have. Fourth thing is you make sure this option is turned on, which says require encryption for third-party endpoints. Now, it's not important for you to understand what this is, but just know this is a security feature which if you turn on, it's a good thing. I think let's just keep it there. Now here you have all the options to control chat, sharing, whiteboard, all of these things. So if you want the participants to, just a second. If you want the participants not to chat amongst themselves, you can turn this off. So that will not allow the participants to chat amongst themselves. So these two basically. So this is the private chat and this is send a message visible to all participants. So when you turn both of these off, it means that they can send a chat only to you. Okay, nobody else. If you want them to be able to send a message to everyone and you can just turn this on. And if you don't want them to do one-on-one chats, you can turn this off. So the private chat is off, but chat to everybody is on. You can auto-save chats if you need to. So you just turn this on and they'll be auto-saved into a particular folder. If you don't want file transfer, you switch this off. If you think you would need to share any files, you turn this option on. Screen sharing, if you need the screen sharing to be on, you keep it on and you say, who can share? Only the host. I don't want all participants to share. I just want the host to share. Okay. During the meeting, you can enable others to share if you want, but you don't want to start the meeting off by allowing everybody to share. Okay, so that's the main thing you want to note here. You can turn on or turn off the whiteboard. You can check the autosave whiteboard content when sharing is stopped so that anything you do on the whiteboard is saved automatically. You want to basically turn off some of these options like remote controls. You don't want somebody to control your shared content. So you don't want that to take place at any time. You don't want the participants to rename themselves because you want to validate it using the attendance. And that's mostly about the options you need to keep. And the last option at the bottom, which you'll need to enable if not, is the waiting room. So the waiting room is what I showed you earlier, that it will allow participants basically to wait while you validate their name and admit them into the room. If you turn this off, then they directly enter the meeting without being in a waiting room. Okay. So these are some of the options which you need to know and set on the meetings tab under settings. And you'll be sent a big guideline to make sure all of this is aligned. Okay. The second thing you need to do is you don't want anybody to record, so you just switch off the recording feature. Okay, so you don't want anybody to record during the meeting. If you turn this on, then participants you can give the participants permission to record, and the advisory is against doing any recording, so you just make sure everything is turned off. Okay, that's plain and simple. Now, once you've done all the settings, now the last thing you need to know is how to create a meeting. Okay, that's the last thing which we're going to touch upon, how to create a meeting. So let me just go to my licensed account before I show you how to create a meeting. Just give me a sec. Okay. So once you're in, make sure you're on the meetings tab here. So make sure you click the meetings button here, and you'll see a big schedule a new meeting button. That's how you schedule new meetings. So let's try clicking on that. So when you click on that, what happens, it takes you to a page where you can actually now schedule a meeting. Now, let's pay attention to a few options which are available here. Number one is the topic of your meeting, so which is basically you can put down, let's say, class 6 secondary math, class sec 2 math, whatever. So up to you to say what the topic is. You can enter an optional description if you want, highlighting what the meeting is about. If it's a single meeting, meaning you're setting a meeting only for one particular class or one particular day, you choose the date of the meeting. Let's say, for example, I'm choosing 15th. Let's say I select the meeting is at, say, 1 p.m., for example, and the duration of the meeting is, let's say, 2 hours. You make sure the time zone is the correct time zone you're in. You say you want the meeting ID to be generated automatically. Do not use personal meeting ID. Okay, that's against the guidelines. So don't use personal meeting ID. Make sure you have a password. So make sure this is checked and you have a strong password. Don't use a default password. So put something like MATHS something which is a little complicated. Okay. Not so complicated that people can't get into the meeting at all, but something which is complicated enough so that it's not very easy. Make sure the host video is off, participant video is on, as per the guidelines given, because you want the participant video to be on. You can have their audio to be from any channel they want, so make sure this is at both. And then under the meeting options, you basically have mute participants upon entry and enable waiting room ticked. Nothing else needs to be ticked. Then you can save the meeting. And let's say I do, for example, let's say I just do a simple test meeting. Okay. Now, once you save this, what you'll see is that your meeting has been created, and this is your meeting ID. This is the password for your meeting. This is your meeting link, and you can copy the whole meeting invitation from here. So when you click on copy invitation, you get this whole invitation which highlights all the details: the topic, the time, the meeting link, the meeting ID, the password. And if they want to join audio using their phones, they can use these options here if they want. So this is the whole meeting invitation for you. So if the requirement for you is using the whole meeting invitation, you can use that. Else, if the requirement for you is putting up one of these in a Google Sheet or somewhere else, you can note this down in that particular document. And you'll see all the options you have selected are highlighted here. Okay. Now, if you think you've created the meeting incorrectly, you can delete the meeting. So when you delete the meeting, you'll get an option called delete here. You click on that, it'll be deleted. But if you head back to your meetings, that's where you'll see the meeting come up. So let's say, where's my test meeting? I have a lot of meetings. I don't remember what day was it scheduled on. Okay. Basically, the idea is that whatever you schedule will come up here. Okay. And you'll be able to see the scheduled meeting here. Okay. The next one I'll schedule it for earlier so that you can see it. Here it is. So you can see the test meeting here. You can again note the meeting ID here. You can click on test meeting in case you want more information about it. You can just click on that meeting. Again, you'll come back to this page. That's a simple one-time meeting. Once the meeting is over, you're not going to use this meeting again. That's a simple one-time meeting. Now, let me just show you, for those people who have, let's say, classes regularly going on for a particular duration of time, how do you create recurring meetings? Okay. So again, you click on schedule a meeting. You put some topic. Let's say I want to say test 2 meeting. You can put the description here. You can select when is the first occurrence of the meeting. So let's say my class is tomorrow. Okay, that is the first occurrence of my meeting, and let's say it's at 5 p.m. Duration is 2 hours. You see this option here for recurring meeting? You can check this option, and it comes up with a few things you can select from. What are these few things you can select from? You have to select, number one, what is the recurring frequency? Is it a daily thing? Is it a weekly thing? Is it a monthly thing? Or is there no fixed time? If you select daily, for example, then you can choose that it repeats either every day, it repeats once in 2 days, once in 3 days, or so on. So whatever you select will come up here and show you. So this will be the summary of the selection you're doing. Okay. So if you, let's say, select every 2 days, it's going to say every 2 days until June 24th, 2020. Now, you have to also select till when you want this recurrence to go on. So if, let's say, your classes start on 12th and it ends on the 30th of June, you say the last date is 30th of June and it occurs every 2 days. So every 2 days starting on 12th up to the 30th of June. And there are 10 occurrences within that. Now, this is when you do a daily recurrence. Now, let's say you have weekly classes on Tuesday and Friday. Okay. You can choose the weekly option and you can say, okay, my classes repeat every week and I'm starting tomorrow. And it repeats on a Tuesday and a Friday. Okay. So you can select which days does your class repeat on or does your meeting repeat on. And you can say, okay, my classes are scheduled every Tuesday and Friday up to the end of August. So you have every week, Tuesday and Friday, up to 31st of August. And you can see that there are 23 classes which are going to happen. So you can validate that number if you need to. Now, beyond this.
Aditya, just a question here. So I looked at my schedule, and I think others might have as well. We have set up recurring meetings until September, if I'm not wrong. But in between, there could be some breaks, like some meetings could be cancelled, some classes could be cancelled because of public holidays or and so on and so, or breaks in between, right? So after scheduling this recurring setup, is there a way to remove a specific occurrence? Could you help us with that?
Yeah, sure. I'll come to that once I create the occurrence. Okay. Once I create the meeting, I'll come to deleting it.
Sure.
How you can essentially go about deleting. Okay. So let's say, for example, we did this. Okay. We said Tuesday to Friday, every week. And
sorry, Aditya. Sorry, just to butt in here. Just to keep it simple, just make it once a week, because all the classes are once a week, so they don't have.
So let's say Friday every week, for example. Okay. So once a week, every week, and it's going to run up to 31st of August. Again, the options at the bottom still remain the same. So you put your password, you make sure participants' video is turned on, select these options, and then you click on save. So once you click on save, what essentially happens is that you get all the same details here on your screen. But along with the date here, you have a button which says show all occurrences. So here you can click on this and it'll actually show you all the occurrences which you have. Now, along with the occurrence here, you can see you have an edit or a delete button on each specific occurrence. So let's say, for example, August 7th is a holiday and you don't want a meeting to be scheduled on August 7th. You can click the delete button here and it will get rid of that specific occurrence only. Now, if you feel at a later point in time that within 7 days, okay, it can't be any time later, within 7 days you feel that, okay, this holiday has been revoked and it's not a holiday anymore, within 7 days you can come and restore this and it's going to come back here.
Great, thanks. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. You can edit a specific occurrence. So let's say, for example, you had a time of 5 o'clock for July 12th, but somehow only that occurrence changed to 6 p.m. due to some reason. You can go in and click on that and you can say, okay, the timing for this has now changed from, say, 5 to 6 p.m. And you can save that only. So the timing for only that particular occurrence will now have changed to 6 p.m. and everything else is at 5 p.m. So you can, edit each one as in how you feel like. You can add another session if you want. So if you, think you need to add more, you can go to add another session. You can say when you want to add and you can click save. So what happens is, let's say, somehow in the middle, during 1 week, I had to take another session to substitute for somebody else. And that, let's say was not substitute for somebody else, but let's say you had an additional class on August 8th, which is not in the recurring. You can select August 8th and say the class at 5 p.m. It runs for 2 hours and you click save. So now you have August 8th also added to your list. So now that is not part of the recurring meeting, but these are extra ad hoc meetings if you want to. But you want to keep still as part of the same meeting ID, the same meeting password, and the same meeting link. Right? So the thing to note here is that all the recurring meetings have the same ID and password to enter and the same link. Okay, so you don't need to give different links for different meetings, for different occurrences. So that's why these are pretty useful. And all the other options are still the same. Again, you can delete the meeting. In delete the meeting, you can choose to delete one occurrence or all occurrences. So if you want to delete a particular occurrence, you can either do it through that or do it through this options here. Okay. So any questions on this so far? Any questions?
Aditya, I have a question. So let's suppose some teacher wants to take relief class, right? And they can't attend the meeting that they've already said. Is it possible to assign a different host to just one single meeting if you've already scheduled them?
So if you want to assign a different host, what essentially happens is you can type the email address. So when you edit the meeting, you can type the email address of the alternative host on that particular occurrence, and you can click save. And if they log in with that particular ID, then they can also be the host. So if you are not available on that day, you can have alternative hosts there. So just make sure you put the email ID and save.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
This is a generic question, right? So when the classes happen, does any CDAC admin staff that we liaise with at the center also dial into these calls? The reason I ask is sometimes when we take the attendance, when the student is not present, then we need to reach out to the admin staff so that they can call the student to see where they are. So
I'll take this one.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
If a student is not present in the class, you don't have to let anyone know or anything, because I've already shared all the attendances with you, right? All the online attendance has already been shared with you, and all these attendance are being monitored by the CDAC managers and all that. So during the class itself, they will log in and then they will have a look at it, and whoever's not there, they will call accordingly. So you guys don't have to worry about calling someone and stuff. Like whoever is there, just take the attendance.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. So last thing before we shut off for the day, some etiquettes you follow. You're also going to get some guidelines on this, but just make sure there are some things which you need to know. Before commencing the class, make sure that the meeting setup is done properly, just to make sure that all the options are checked as per the guidelines which have been provided to you. Before the class starts, make sure you're properly attired. I think that's one of the most important things in a meeting. You're in a conducive environment and you have everything prepared. So you don't want to run around here and there during the meeting. You want to make sure you have things. Next thing is always start the meeting a little earlier. There might be students who come in and sit in the waiting room a little earlier. You would want to start about 10 to 15 minutes before time. Admit students again based on their name and validate them using their video once they're in. Okay. And then if they don't turn on their cameras, do request them to turn it on. That's something we do, for be it when you're teaching younger people or be it when you're teaching older people, we encourage everybody to keep their cameras on. When the lesson starts, if there are students who are not very familiar with the Zoom platform, have one generic slide which you are saying, okay, these are the Zoom functions you have to use to interact with me. This is what you can do. So set the ground rules very clear. Switch off your mic if you're not speaking, switch it on when you are. Certain things like that. If participants drop out and they, are in the waiting room, make sure you are monitoring the waiting room. So when somebody is in the waiting room, you'll hear a chime when they enter or exit. So just make sure you're paying attention to that chime, when that happens. And what happens if there's an intruder in your Zoom by any chance, because that has happened before? You can end the meeting immediately. First and most comfortable thing to do if you want to. Then what you can do is, I've showed you how to edit the meeting. You can go edit the meeting. You can change the password to enter that meeting. Okay. And you can reshare that to your participants, asking them to rejoin the meeting. That would be the most easiest way for anybody to do it. And then you can, once it starts, you can tell them why you did what you did. Okay. Now, don't do this if Shiva comes into the meeting saying he's an intruder. Shiva might not be an intruder. So just make sure that doesn't happen and you actually see who an intruder is. This has happened before in Singapore as well with some MOE classes or something of that sort, where there were some intruders which came in and they didn't know what to do. So try to follow some of this. And that's all I have for you guys. We've tried to cover the basic stuff as much as possible. And what I'll be doing is I'll be sharing these slides with you post the meeting. I'll also share a recording of the whole meeting with you. and you can keep that with you and use that if you want it. And if there are any specific things you want me to address, you can let Shiva know, and I can communicate through him. And I think that would be the easiest way to do that. Right. So any questions, let me know. And anything else you want me to talk about. If not, Shiva can kind of take over and conclude.
If there's any intruder, can we just leave them in the waiting room? They won't be able to see what's going on, right?
I mean, the problem with intruders is that they're very clever as to bypass the waiting room and directly come into your meeting. So, I mean, if an intruder is clever enough to get into your meeting, he'll be clever enough to get into bypass the waiting room, right? So I'm not talking about an intruder being somebody else from from a different class or something of that sort. Those won't be intruders. I'm talking about more high level intruders.
Okay, this is David here. I have a question about the lesson. So if the student has tried a question, normally how should he or she show it to the teacher?
So if he has tried a question if it's a physical copy, for example, I think if he's writing on paper or something of that sort, the only way, and I spoke about this earlier with Shiva as well, would probably be to, take a photograph and email that to you, to show that to you, because there would be no way. If he's doing it on the computer in any fashion, then he can share the screen. He or she can share a screen and show that to you.
Because I noticed that sometimes when you take a piece of paper, put it in front of the camera, the other side actually sometimes cannot see because of the light.
Yeah. So as I said, there is practically no way other than having a proper setup on that side, or them taking a photograph and sending it to you. So.
Okay, thank you.
When we teach in other places, right, other than CDSE, the students take the photo and send in the group chat of WhatsApp. The CDSE doesn't allow that, I think. They don't allow students and teachers to exchange phone numbers.
Yeah, maybe I'll just come in here quickly with regards to this. It's going to, okay. Unfortunately, one of the suggestions that we actually initially had was that to create a group, WhatsApp group with the students for that particular class. This is how we do it in tuition centers. So usually what will happen is that the kids will actually take a picture of whatever work they've done and WhatsApp it to the teacher. And in the WhatsApp function, you can actually mark and stuff like that on the WhatsApp function itself and send it back to the students. We are still in talks with CDAC to see whether we can go ahead with this or not. Once they give the go ahead for this, then I will have another discussion with you guys and tell you how to do it. But unfortunately, at the moment right now, there are certain limitations with online classes. It is what it is, and we'll just have to maneuver around it. So just like we can't spend a lot of time on the online sessions with the kids doing work, right? In a physical classroom, yes, you can spend like 5 minutes of maybe teaching a concept, and maybe 15 minutes the kids are doing work. You can walk around, you can see what is happening. But on an online platform, it's pointless to just teach for 5 minutes and for the kids to be doing work for 15 minutes because the teacher just can't be there just looking at the students doing work. It doesn't make sense. So my suggestions would be to focus more on the teaching aspect of it. The doing of the work and all, we'll put it aside. I mean, let's just say you teach a concept for 15 minutes, let them do the work for 5-10 minutes, discuss with you guys. The best option is for them to talk and tell you all what they've written. Because technically there's no other options unless the students are very savvy. And you must also remember these are kids from lower income families. They won't have all the devices like what they have in the tuition center, like an iPad where they can write down the answers and share it and stuff like that. Everything is very basic. So the best option is, okay, before that, just to let you all know, all the materials will be emailed to the students, right? The soft copies have all been emailed to the students, so you don't have to worry about the students not having any materials and all that. So whatever materials that you all are screen sharing, the students will also have a soft copy of it, okay? So ideally, like for maths, for English, for science, the best thing to do is get the kids to just write it out on a blank piece of paper, the answers, and just share it with you all verbally, right? It's tough, but it's better than them not having any classes at all, right? And I know some of you were asking, like, if you want to show your concepts, you want to show your formulas and all that, how do you go about doing it? Yeah, I know it's tough to use a mouse, especially for your maths and science. Even for English, okay, English you can type it out, but for your maths and science, it is really tough. You can't use your mouse and draw up your concept, especially for the higher level ones like your A maths and stuff like that. Again, we'll just have to, if you can afford to get a stylus, if you can afford to use an iPad, or even your own phone, right? Like what they said, you can actually mirror your phone. These are things that I suggest over the next couple of days, you guys spend some time trying to figure out how you can use all these additional devices to aid in your teaching, right? So that it makes things better. It's going to be tough over the first couple of weeks, but once you guys get into the hang of it, this is going to be the new norm, whatever said and done. CDAC wants to run this online classes till 31st July. That's the plan. And after that, physical classes. But truth be told, I think this will go on further looking at how the situation is. So I suggest we all embrace this online teaching, and this is how it's going to be looking to the future and stuff like that. Okay, that is with regards to the teaching part of it and stuff like that. I think there was a question earlier about, Francis asked a question about how you actually share the materials online. I've actually sent a copy of one of the materials to Aditya. I think once I'm finished, Aditya, maybe later you can just show an example of how you screen share the materials, okay?
No, like, because Shiva, like, for example, you want to draw a graph, how are you going to share it, you know?
Yes, that's the thing. You got to try and figure out something. We have to try and figure out something. If the WhatsApp thing works, that'll be great because we can actually take a screenshot and send it to the kids. Or the other option is we email it to the kids.
Because I think next two lessons I have will be drawing graph, so straight line graph, and then after that, parabolic graph.
Correct. But like what I said, there are limitations to online teaching. So we have to try and make do and see how we can go around it. So like what I said, if you can maybe prepare beforehand on the computer itself, drawing a graph, and then what you can do is just share that screen with the kids, right? So that means you don't have to do it during the lesson itself. Prior to the lessons, you would have already prepared it, and you can actually share screen with the kids, right? Or another option you can do is do it on a piece of paper, take a picture of it, email it to yourself, and then during the lesson itself, you can share screen whatever picture you've taken of that graph. So that means you would have to prepare for the lesson before that. No?
Shiva, can I just ask something?
Sure.
I think earlier on someone mentioned, someone asked this question, okay, what happens if there is an intruder? Okay, we need to stop the meeting, we need to edit the meeting, give new password and all that, and to tell the student. Now, how do we get in touch with the students to get them back in after stopping a meeting because of an intruder? I mean, if we don't have their WhatsApp.
Okay, let me, I think there are a couple of questions about how the students are getting the meeting IDs and all that. Okay, so let me explain to you all how this works. Some of the Sec 4 teachers have already done this for me, so you all are clear. So after this, what will happen is those teachers who have not purchased your licenses, please purchase all your licenses, okay? I've already given everyone your individual schedules. I've already shared with everyone your individual class attendances. The next thing you need to do is you need to create your own meeting. Like what Aditya has shared earlier, you create a recurring meeting. So for example, let's just say, Christopher, you're taking a Sec 3 class in Sengkang every Monday, 6:30 to 8:30. So you will create that meeting ID. Once you have created that meeting ID, you will WhatsApp it to me, right? So you will give me the details. What's the meeting ID? What is the password? What I will do on my end, CDAC has already given me a form. I will put those meeting IDs and password into that Google Drive. That information will be shared to the students. Okay, so the teachers don't have to worry. You don't have to share all this information to the students whatsoever. You just share it with me. I will put it into a drive and that will be shared with the students. So when the students join your meeting, right, join your class, they would already have had that meeting ID and the password, and then they will log on to the class. They'll be in the waiting room. So you already have your individual attendance. You look at the attendance, you look at the name in the waiting room, and then you let the kids in accordingly. Okay, like what Aditya said, in a scenario whereby there's an intruder into the class, okay, what you do, very simple, you just end the meeting. Okay, tell the kids you're going to end the meeting and just end the meeting. Okay, you don't go and create a new, I know I just shared in the slides about creating a new meeting ID whatsoever. Don't do that. Just end the meeting and then start the meeting back again, and then the kids will rejoin into the class again. Okay, so they will use the same meeting ID and the same password to re-enter the class. So is everyone clear with this part of it?
Can we just ask us, I mean, we have one application where we can ask the student to leave. So we don't have to convenience the students to go and join the meeting again.
Yes, you can also do that also. But what my advice is, don't recreate a new meeting ID or a new password, because there will be no way for you to share this information with the kids. Okay? But let's just say in a scenario whereby, for some reason, again, when you create the thing, intruder comes in, what you do is end the meeting and give me a call straight away. Okay? I will liaise with the CDAC manager immediately, and then we will take a call what to do over there.
Another question,
Okay.
Shiva. I think in many of our previous sessions, we have had consultants and audits come into the meeting, come into the classes and sit around. So are we to expect such situations? And if yes, will we be told in advance so that we let them into, because we wouldn't know who it is by their names. So would we be told in advance so that we can anticipate that and let them into the meeting room when they're waiting?
Okay, there will be consultants, there will be CDAC managers coming into the classrooms. Before I think in a scenario like this, they will let me know that they're coming into the class, and I will just text you all that they will be there so you can let them know. I'll give you their details, and then you can just let them in.
Sure, thank you.
So if we don't hear from you and they claim to be CDAC consultant, we don't let them know, right? We don't let them in.
Yeah, because if you're not sure who they are, please don't let them in. I mean, I know some of you are familiar with some of the consultants and all that. But again, like I know certain centers have fixed consultants, but there could be changes and stuff like that. So if you're really not familiar with so-and-so, then just drop me a text and ask me.
Sorry, can I just clarify? When Aditya showed the settings for the meetings, in his settings, host video was off, participants' videos were on.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to adhere to that?
Yes, because I already sent you all the guidelines on what to do, right? In the message earlier I gave you. So those are following the guidelines from CDAC.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is before you create the meeting ID and the recurring meeting, just run through the guidelines. The guideline shows you what are the tabs that you need to turn on, what are the tabs you need to turn off. Like the host should be off, the participant should be on. Follow those exactly, and then create the meetings based on that.
Okay.
Shiva, we have a long break. So do we carry on from the next lesson that was supposed to be done maybe months ago?
No, I've already shared the materials with you all. You follow exactly from whichever materials that I've shared with you all.
Have you?
Yes. The only materials that have not been shared are the Sec 3 A Math and Sec 4 A Math materials, but the rest of the materials have all been shared with you. The class attendances, the individual class attendance have all been shared with you all also. So if you guys haven't gotten it, please WhatsApp me separately later, but everything has been shared with you all.
Okay, I got the schedule for the date lah, but I don't have the. Is it sent by Google or is sent?
Yes, by Google Drive. Everything has been shared through Google Drive.
Okay, okay, I go Google Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Shiva, just to ask, just to confirm, okay, during the session itself, we will all be able to see each other's faces, right? The tutor will be able to see the students' faces and vice versa, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so eventually we will, I mean, so as we can see the students' reactions and things of that sort.
Yeah, because you will need to see the student's face before you let them into the class, you see?
Okay.
That's why the option, like Aditya said earlier, the participants video is on.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can tell the student this is CDAC requirement, they have to turn the video on, right? Or
Yes, correct. Because if their video is not turned on, you can't let them into the class, you see, because you can't see their face and stuff.
so after they join, they have to stay on the video.
Yes, they have to stay in the video, because if their video is turned off, if you don't know what they're doing, they could be somewhere else.
Sorry, Shiva, may I just check with you? How do you actually mark the attendance?
I've already shared the online attendance with you all.
Okay.
Right? Individual or online attendance. So you can actually just use the same thing. It's either the 1 or the 0.
Okay, that means you're doing it online during the lesson itself, is it? Or after the lesson?
Yes. No, during the lesson itself. Because that means when the kids are in the waiting room, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to look at the attendance to verify who's in the waiting room, right?
Okay.
So when you see their waiting room, so you just take the attendance straight away.
And you save it and then just leave it, is it?
You don't have to save it because this is in Google Drive, so it auto saves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking at my attendance list, and under name of student, there are no names.
Yes, correct.
Are we
Because
supposed to?
No, don't worry.
Alright,
because CDAC is still putting in all the names of the kids and all that. So some of your attendance might be empty. Don't panic. They're still in the midst of, because only Sec 4 classes are starting next week. The rest of the classes are starting the following week. So they're still a good week and a half. So they're still inputting the names inside and all that.
What's the maximum number of students in a class? Just curious.
10 to 11, 10 to 12. 12 in some classes, but the most classes is 10.
Is CDAC considering minimizing the number of students in a class, given that it's a very different setting to conduct a class online versus a physical classroom?
Yeah, but because of time limit and everything, this is the numbers for now.
Okay.
I would like to know how to get the license for Zoom, because so far what we have been doing, it didn't work this way. So I would like to know the procedure.
I've already shared it in the WhatsApp chat already, right? Like what Aditya, you just go into the Zoom website itself. Okay. You sign up for a Zoom account, like he showed you. You sign up for a Zoom account. Once you sign up for a Zoom account, and then you go to the upgrade, right? And then you choose that particular option, which I've already shared in the WhatsApp group also, which option that I want you to choose. So you can actually, everything is already in the WhatsApp chat that I've put in there. So just follow that accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Shiva, also just to let you know that some of my Sec 4 classes at the moment have 0 attendance according to the Google Sheet,
Yeah, like what I stated, CDAC is still in the midst of putting the names in. So don't panic, don't worry. The names will come in before your class starts. Okay, just a few things to reiterate whatever Aditya covered again, okay? Make sure you do not allow the students to rename their names, okay? Because Aditya was showing the option where kids can rename and all that. Make sure they do not rename. They have to follow whatever the name is according to the attendance, okay? And then don't allow the chat function, okay? These kids, they are very familiar with the Zoom function. They know how to use it. So do not allow the chat function for them to chat with themselves, or vice versa, Okay. And yeah, no screen sharing also, because you don't know what these clowns will suddenly share. Right? They might just share something which is not supposed to be shared. So no screen sharing and stuff like that, unless you need them to show their work or something like that, just for that moment, and then after disable it. Okay. Any other questions anyone has? Everyone good? Yes,
Mr.
Jana.
Shiva, okay. So for the task fulfillment at this point of time, there is no standardization. So what you're saying is, it's either we quickly let them have a few seconds of screen share so that they can tell us that they have completed the work. Is that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so they are not going to use platforms like classkick.com, Padlet, Jamboard, no such things.
No, because we're only using the Zoom platform here.
Okay, noted.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is spend more time teaching the concepts. Work-wise, they will have to do it on their own time. Okay, most of the work, they'll have to do it on their own time, right? But spend more time in the concepts, especially for the upper sec kids. Their exams are coming. They missed quite a bit of school time. So spend more time with these kids, with the concepts and stuff like that.
We're not going to encourage them to actually toggle between their soft copies and listening to us, right? We limit what they, I mean, like all eyes should be on the teacher's copy. Am I right?
Yeah, because whatever soft copy that they have, you already have it, and you'll be screen sharing with them. So they just need to look at the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Before I hand over to Aditya, just to show the screen sharing about the materials and all that, just take note. Attire is very important. We're all at home, so it's easy to be dressed down. But just remember, you have parents around, you have consultants around coming into the classes to see. So just be properly attired. Punctuality is very important. Right now, with classes being online, anybody can. It's easy for people to just come and see the classes, the consultants or the managers. Previously, they had to travel, but now they just need to go to laptop. They can see whether the teacher is on time or late and stuff like that. Make sure you know your lesson materials, prepare beforehand. Focus on the concepts again, and focus on the teaching. Yeah, that's a few things that I wanted to share. I'll be sending you guys a Google form from CDAC. The Sec 4 teachers have already filled it up. The rest of you just fill it up, send it back to me. And if there's any other questions that you guys have, you think you're not sure, you're feeling a bit anxious, you're feeling a bit lost, feel free to text me anytime to ask me. We're all learning this together. I'm new to this also. We're all learning this together. It's going to be tough. Or if you want, just put it out in the group. I'm happy to see that whatever you guys have shared, everyone is coming up with suggestions in the chat box and all that. I think that's great. So all these suggestions, all these questions that you have, put it into the chat group. I think people are more than willing to help. Some of us are really experts in this. So it's good that we can share whatever knowledge that we have. Some of you are teaching for other centers, have already done this. So it's great if you can share your experiences if anyone needs help. So like what I said, this is going to be the new norm. Let's embrace it and let's become an expert in it. Okay? All right. Aditya, you want to take over?
Yeah. I mean, what I'm showing on my screen is just what you sent across to me. So I think this is how the materials are going to be, which you would also have and which the students would also have, if I'm not wrong. So, you can possibly go through it once you have it on you, and you can see how best you want to use, the space here to actually use space here to provide solutions and stuff. So I think that's up to it's a platform which is very open-ended, so everybody has their own way of doing things. I mean, so you can decide for yourself what is the best way in which you want to, kind of send this message across and, use the platform. If you have, things like, the iPad, the stylus and all of that, make optimal use of that. If you don't, try to figure out the best, other best ways to do it. So you have online tools like somebody was mentioning to plot graphs, and you have some places you can show illustrations and stuff. Have these beforehand curated as a list, and then you can use it to potentially show. I think that's all from me. I don't have anything else. Just practice, and if you have any issues, as I said before, just reach out to Shiva, and then I can help out it if required in any way. So that's all I have from my end. Shiva, anything else?
You guys, I've got nothing else. Anyone, anything else? Any last questions? Okay, if everyone's good, thank you very much. Those starting the Sec 4 classes next week, enjoy your classes, enjoy the new norms. The rest of you will be in touch through WhatsApp, and let's hope everything goes well. All right, thank you very much, and good night, guys.
Good night.
All right, thank
Night.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good night.
Night.
Just one thing for Ravi, if he's still on, he asked me how I shared the PDF. I just click share screen, and I'm just sharing my screen, and I've just opened up the PDF on my screen. So that's how you can essentially see it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm gonna catch you in a. Give me a bit. I'm gonna catch you in a bit. Okay.
Sure, no worries.
Need to have dinner, and then I'll
Okay, I tell you what. I'm gonna have my dinner also. Probably I'll call you maybe in about 15-20 minutes.
I need a little more time for my dinner. Probably about 30 minutes.
Yeah, sure, no problem. You call me once you're done.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, see you, man.
Yeah. See you.
Bye.